Welcome to New North Stories, a new series we're starting to highlight people in our community. I'm McKenna Takach, and I'm community life pastor here. And really, this series is all about highlighting the way that people within our New North Church are already loving and serving the people around us. We really want to see what it looks like to love and serve people in every life stage, every occupation, and what it looks like to serve Jesus no matter where you are in your life. I'm here today with John Lowe, who has been a faithful part of New North for years now and has been a part of many ministries for as long as I've known you. You've always been a part of at least one ministry. Now he serves in high school ministry at New North. But John, I'd love just to hear a little bit about your story and how kind of your journey with loving and serving people started.
Well, thank you, McKenna. Actually, to set the record straight, I'm not serving in high school ministry right now. I'm in men's frat, but I started off at CPC when I first started coming here years ago, in their student ministry for the first year or two, and then after that, I served as a student leader at Church. So currently, I'm just in men's frat.
Yeah, you were in student ministries when I was serving in student ministries too.
That's right. Yep.
We went on houseboat trips together.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, totally. But yeah, so I guess, first thing I want to just say is that, I have a lot of issues. I got a lot of issues. And just to be upfront, I struggle with self-discipline. I hate reading. I've never liked school. I swear in private. I'm rebellious in nature. I like challenging rules. And, just please never tell me I can't do something because I'm just going to try to do it just to prove you wrong. So I'm far, far, far from perfect, But I guess within that, but if you have an issue, if you get into a jam or an emergency, I think you want me on your team because I'm a great problem solver. So but I think it's with, after being in the fire department for like 28 and a half years, you get used to emergencies and thinking quickly and understanding what tools you have to fix a problem, I guess. Yeah. I guess ministry really looks like to me right now is trying to be just relational with people. Yeah. And I think my main activities right now really are fishing, pickleball. Yeah, mainly pickleball. Some tennis, but mostly pickleball now. And so, I play down in Foster City, and I meet a lot of different people there. There's a lot of Samoans there who are part of the Mormon church down there. There's a group of Japanese moms who come there and play, so they're, so I get to meet them, and, it's fun, I guess serving them in terms of teaching them how to play pickleball too. Yeah. So I'm trying to be relational with them and getting to know them in that way. So it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like some of the relational part of it though is creating availability for people, right? So I know you bring people to church all the time, and I know personally from just hearing stories about you and from you that like you develop deep relationships with people and pursue them. And part of the way that happens, I know, is because you actually create space in your life for that to be possible. But do you want to kind of walk through, you're at this point where, you kind of see these activities that you do as ministry. I know that you, even for fishing, you take people out on the boat with you, and then you're just with them all day, and you can talk about all kinds of stuff. But how did you get here? Like, what did it take to get you to this point where you see your life kind of as ministry?
Wow, that's a great question, and it'll take hours to get into that, but we're gonna try to give you
sum it up in 1 minute.
We're trying to give you with the Cliff Notes.
Yeah,
the Cliff Notes version. I think for me, I guess it started as a student who flunked my senior year in high school back in 1984. I was 134 pounds, low self-esteem, came from a divorced family, and the people who I worked for at a fishing store, ironically, were really worried about me of what I was going to do for a living. Said, John, you just can't fish all day, and you got to be responsible. I was like, in the back of my mind, I said, yeah, I know that, but I just have no idea what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I just knew I did not, because I didn't like school, I know I didn't want to do something 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. But that's what most people did.
Yeah.
Or most people do. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that is just not the way I was wired. And so, I ended up talking to a lot of people at the tackle store, because a lot of people like fishing, rich, poor, middle class, all, whether you're a doctor, lawyer, mechanic,
Yeah.
just all different people came through. And I asked a motorcycle cop, what do you think I should do for a living? And he said, John, if I had a chance to do it all over again, I'd be a firefighter.
Huh.
And I went, a firefighter? Why would I want to run into burning buildings when everyone else is running out? And he said, well, you work one day and you get 2 days off. And I'm like, what? You mean every day I go into work, it's a Friday? And I like, count me. I said, you mean I only work 1 out of every 3 days, 10 out of 30, 3 months out of 12, And he goes, yes, that's correct. And I'm like, how much do you get paid? And then back then it was like $40,000, $50,000 way back in 1985, 86, so that was a lot of money back then. And so the dream was born, that this is what I wanted to do, and the career of firefighting really fit my personality as well. I love helping people. And I thought about it, firefighters, if they're not doing anything, they're just sitting around the firehouse, doing some drills, cooking, watching TV, working out. I said, that's me, I could that, but when the bell rings, I'm all in.
Yeah.
Right. So that just, excited me to no end. But shortly after he left, a tremendous amount of fear came into my life. I mean, just like minutes after he left, I was really excited, on top of the world. And now I realized, I started analytically thinking that it's like, well, okay, what is a firefighter? Smart. That's when I flunked high school. Strong. I'm only 135 pounds. I don't even work out, and brave. It's like, I have low self-esteem. I don't know if I can do this, but, I guess that I felt that that's it. That's not me. I can't do it. And I felt very sad at the moment, because here was my dream job 5 minutes ago, but now
You felt like you couldn't fit it.
There's no way. Who I was at that point, there's no way. But what was interesting is that I was able to, I guess, project myself on my deathbed and saying, if I never tried to become a firefighter, would I be okay with that? And at that time, I was like, no way. I would rather try and fail and knowing that I at least tried than to never try and never know.
Yeah.
That fear of never knowing what could be if I chased my dream was greater than the fear of failure.
So at this point, were you a follower of Jesus?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Totally. I mean, I was totally a follower of Jesus. I don't think I was as committed. I don't think I really knew all the ins and outs. Definitely I accepted Jesus Christ as my personal savior. But this deep relationship, I think God was in the beginning stages of working that out.
Yeah. So as you kind of wrestled with this idea of, this dream that you had and deciding, okay, I'm going to jump into this, like how did your faith end up playing a part in determining like the way that you did life moving forward?
Well, from that point, I just say, hey, God, I said, not that you can make promises that deals with him, but, being 20 years old, what do you know? You just do what you do, and I think God is okay with that. And I said, Lord, if you just man, if I could become a firefighter, I'd love to spend the time, with my family, because, I came from a divorced family. I didn't spend much time with my mom and my dad. And at the time I didn't even have a girlfriend. So it's like, this is like this future family that, didn't even have. But because I love fishing, I said, man, I'd love to, spend time serving, you taking people fishing and things like that. Fast forward now, I've taken hundreds of kids out on my boat, skiing and fishing and stuff like that. And, and I think that was just part of, I guess, keeping my promise, because God kept his. And, so it was just trying, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at all trying to become a firefighter. I mean, I had to start working out and had to start going to school.
Your favorite.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I still struggled with my, general education, but my core classes, I got all A's because it was something that I wanted to do and I had a passion for, so it was really cool.
That's awesome. So in terms of like, I mean, obviously there's been a number of years between that time and now. You said just a minute ago when we were sitting at the table, like, my 20-year-old self wouldn't have believed where I am right now. But like, how has like caring for people fit into that? And like, how is really, I mean, the thing is that I know you to be a discipler of people, not just caring for people, but also like walking alongside them and pointing them to Jesus. But like, and I know that for you too, and you feel free to chime in and jump in and tell people about any parts of these, but like there have been a number of different like specific ways that you've done that. But would you want to tell us about any of those or?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there was a point where, I was at New North, but I wanted to do something a little bit more outside the box. And I heard Francis Chan was doing something down in the Bayview district, another part of the story, for 15 years I owned a laundromat in the Bayview district. And served some people down there, and also made a decent amount of money, but also just served people down there, and I was praying, and I was like, something I really wish I could meet Francis Chan because I can see what he's doing, because I heard he's down here in the Tenderloin or in the Bayview district doing something, but and lo and behold, I'm downtown Millbrae having dinner with my family, and I look across the street and I said, that dude looks like Francis Chan. And sure enough, I went up to him and I said, hey, are you Francis Chan? And he goes, I'm sure, a celebrity, whatever. He goes, oh, yeah. And I said, hey, I heard you're doing something downtown, I'd like to find out about it, So he said, oh, yeah, come on down and come check us out. And so, I told Rob, hey, Rob, I think I'm going to go down to We Are Church and work with them for a little bit and see what's going on. And at the time, they had a place called Project Bayview, where they take these, guys who are incarcerated or on drugs and bring them into the house and try to love them and try to, disciple them and things like that. And, which I guess I could do a little bit of, but I'm more relational and I was more on the financial side. So I said, I'll tell you what, you guys do all that spiritual stuff. I will work with them on their budget. I'll work with them, teaching them how to, because they have to have those skills eventually, right? So I ended up meeting a guy named Larry Short, who ended up, we ended up having this on and off relationship for probably 6 or 7 years now. And he ended up living at my house for a little bit, and then he left. And then he came back, and they ended up living in my RV. And then he left again, and then came back and ended up living in my RV again, and then ended up living at my house for about 2 or 3 months.
Wow.
Recently, and I'm sure he wouldn't mind sharing some of his story, but he's, and I'm sure some people have met him too, and he'll be glad to just admit he's like a paranoid schizophrenic, and I didn't know that at the time till like the last part. He lives with me, and then he has some health issues and stuff like that. But, I think him living with me at the time was really, was really great. I mean, it really stretched me and stretched my family as well. Because, my kids are like, oh, heck no, man, no way. Just like, he's going to invade our house, and, it's going to make things uncomfortable, whatever. And, I like the way things are. And I was like, yeah, but I think this is, we have the resources, we have the ability. I think this is something that, we need to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, he stayed at my house for a while, and things were good, and there's some rough parts, because you're just dealing with people. And ultimately, I think he ended up leaving like the 1st of January or something like that. And when he leaves, he just disappears. He just goes, and he just don't know where he's at, But yeah, since that time, he contacted me. He's actually in a navigation. I forgot what it's called. Somewhere downtown San Francisco. It's I think it's called navigation. But anyway, he's doing great. He didn't get back on drugs. He's living there in this shelter. And recently, he just got some housing through HUD, and he's doing great. He's going to move in, the 1st of April.
Wow.
And he's just doing real good.
That's
awesome.
I
think when he left, he goes, something, John. When he contacted me after he left, he goes, John, I just had to do it on my own. I loved you.
Yeah.
I love what you guys are doing. What you guys have done has really put me in a position to do that. But I need to give it a shot on my own.
Good for him.
And that's what he's done. He's doing good.
It's interesting because there's a lot that I'd love to kind of just highlight, but I think first, I mean, the thing that strikes me about that story in particular is that when you said we have the resources, it seems like the way that you think about your resources is different, right? Because if a lot of people have resources around here, right? A lot of people have the resources to do kind of like extravagant things to care for people, and we don't, right? And I think one of the things you said was, it feels like, well, this is my space, this is my things. It sounds like when you think about your things or your time or your resources in general, like they're to be used for other people and for caring for people, and they're God's ultimately. But then also, like there's a tremendous amount of vulnerability in caring for people too. And I mean, I just want to just thank you for the example of what it looks like to care for somebody in a way that costs you something, because I like inviting someone into your home to live with you, that's a costly thing. And I think a lot of times, I know this for myself too, it's easy to love someone on your own terms and to love someone within like your own comfort and what makes you feel safe, right? It's very hard to love someone in a way that makes you feel unsafe, or not just unsafe in a physical sense, but unsafe in it's costly.
Yeah, there's a level of being uncomfortable and vulnerable, and and if you have any issues, they're gonna see. I mean, you're gonna be exposed.
Yeah,
you're gonna be
true.
exposed, because they're gonna be with you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they're gonna see it, and definitely, I think after Larry left, there was a point where, it's like, I don't think I love Larry as good as I should have. I mean, because I think when he came back the second time, he was a little bit on the skinnier side because he ended up going up to Sacramento. He ended up getting on drugs, ended up being in the bushes, ended up going to the ER. He had to cut himself to get into the ER because he needed help, and that was the only way he can get in there. And then he ended up getting COVID inside inside the hospital, and then he should have died. I don't know, but I think God has letting him live because he has work to be done. But when he came back to our place, he was a little bit on the skinnier side, So we started feeding him and stuff like that. And he told me, he goes, "Oh yeah, let's go to Costco and I want to buy these pants." I said, "These pants are way too big." He goes, "No, don't worry about it. I'm gonna fit into them. I'm gonna grow into them." I'm like, "Really?" I didn't really believe him, but sure enough, as I was feeding him in the RV, and then he came to my house, and he had a bigger belly, and he fit right into him, man. But the part that was sort of unloving is that I was like sort of hammering him. I said, dude, you got to get rid of that belly, man. It's like, you're getting a little fat here, you know? And I don't think that was the most sensitive thing I could have said, but that was pretty messed up, you know? So, but, you know, he knew it, and we sort of teased each other about it. But you know, at the end when he left, I asked Rob to pray for me, you know, because I felt bad that he left. But I just said, you know, something is, I just want to learn to love even better.
Yeah.
You know, because I didn't really need to say some of those things that I did, but I did.
I mean, I can relate to saying things that you wish you could take back. That's for sure. But I also think that one of the beautiful things about this story is that, you know, I think a lot of us as followers of Jesus love people for a purpose, right? So like we love people thinking, okay, well, the end goal is, you know, and I know this for myself, like talking about people like their projects, right? Like I'm going to care for this person because ultimately I want them to come to know Jesus. Of course I want them to come to know Jesus. However, like you, for example, like just kind of went on the journey and just were on the journey instead of saying like, well, I'm going to love you this far and I'm going to care for you this far. And I think we can learn from that because truly, I mean, that's what God does with us is he doesn't say, I'm going to love you this far. He says, I'm going to love you as you process through this and as you grow. And knowing that our 20-year-old selves are going to be very different than our 40-year-old selves or, you know, and somehow he's okay with that. And I just think that that's a really beautiful thing that you're willing to walk. You're willing to walk with people. And I know Larry is not the only person that you've journeyed with. But yeah, I guess for me, you know, when I think about, you know, finding like, I guess being encouraged to take steps of faith that kind of break out of my own comfort zone. What encouragement would you give to our church to just say like, this is my encouragement about how to do that or how to start? Because most of us in theory are like, I want to do that. I want to care for people. I want to love Jesus. I want to love people better, even like what you were saying.
Yeah.
But like, what does a first step look like?
This would be probably the only time I'll, you know, even try to quote the Bible at all. But in, you know, 1 Corinthians 12, and it just so happened, actually, Jenny in our church, I recently took her mom and dad out fishing. I think it was last Friday or Friday stuff. And as we were talking, I'm like, you know, something, I got this interview coming up, and I don't even know what the heck to say. And, you know, and then she threw out the verse, you know, in 1 Corinthians 12 about, you know, Christ is made up of, you know, the body of Christ is made up of different parts. And each one of the parts are special and unique and different. And yeah, do not try to be like me. Don't do that. Do you. You know, do you. I mean, God has made you in a certain way with certain personality, certain skills, certain disabilities. Use those to your benefit, you know, to serve Christ. And, you know, I think part of the biggest challenge, I believe, is that we all have some sort of fear and uncertainty, and we all have failures that Satan tries to use against us, right? And they mess us up internally, whether it be emotionally, spiritually, psychologically.
Yeah.
You know, because I think a lot of things that we talk about, I mean, we talked about so far, they're physical things that maybe I've done physically, you know, but I think there's a lot of work that, you know, that I've done that people need to do internally.
Absolutely. Yes.
To really be able to do those things physically. If you try to do those things physically without doing the internal work, oh, it's going to be a mess. Because you're just going to do it out of your flesh. And you're not doing it out of the love that you have for God or the love that, you know, God has for you. And, you know, so, you know, we forget who we are in Christ. You know, we're forgiven, we're loved, we're cherished.
Yeah.
And that's tremendously powerful, because those are the things that if we dwell on them in the right way, we let those things change us in the right way,
Yeah.
it sets us free to just love.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of where, you know, I'm at, and I want to encourage people to be at, you know. A lot of times you hear, I mean, in these interviews, you hear, oh, why do you serve God, you know? And people say, oh, I serve, you know, Christ because of what he's done for me. And I think many times, you know, people might think, oh, yeah, Christ forgave my sins. Yeah, that's what he did for me. And they just sort of it just sort of goes over their head and just sort of, you know, bypasses. But it goes so much deeper than that.
Yeah, gospel's bigger than that. That's what our whole sermon series is about right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's way, way deeper than that, you know, and you know, and I think people need to take the time to go into that area and see, you know, maybe how messed up they really are, or how much God has really forgiven them.
Absolutely.
You know, but if they don't do that because they don't take the time, or when they go into that area, there's too much pain, and they just and that's another reason why they don't go into that area, you know, to really change them, you know, from the inside out.
Yeah.
You know, but I think if you really go into that and come into terms with you being a failure, a sinful human being who needs the love and forgiveness of Christ, and you've experienced that, that's when God can really set you free to do some crazy things.
Yeah, absolutely. It is, I mean, and as simple as it sounds, where it's like, what, you know, like, I'm doing this because I know what God's done for me. You're right. It is a lifelong journey of figuring out, like, how deeply and profoundly knowing Jesus changes things. And yeah, that's fantastic. Well, Jon, thank you so much for being with us. I am so thankful that I got to hear some of your story. I'm really thankful that people at New North are going to hear it. But yeah, for those of you who are listening, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back soon with more stories from people in our body about loving and serving the people around them.